gentlemen, welcome to Retro Warriors episode 467. Woo! As always, I'm your host, Justin Baker, and as always, I'm joined by Viable Human, Chris Saturn.
Hello.
Hi, Saturn. We're here.
Yay.
We made it again for the 467th consecutive time in a row.
You know, I was thinking, we've been doing the show for a while, and I don't remember a time where either of us suddenly got the hiccups in the middle of the show.
Why would you say
And
that
as
now?
soon as I thought that, it became an immediate fear.
That's like anytime I'm going to do something, like I'll be like, yeah, I gotta go to the DMV, it sucks or whatever, and I'm talking to Andrew, he'll go, hope you don't shit your pants. And every time I'm like, why would you say that? Why would you put that out there? Is that a concern? Could that happen?
Last
I'll be like,
night-
I don't know, bye.
Last night, I normally on Monday nights into Tuesday mornings, I work with another person, but she had to call out because her wife was sick. And the other guy that is there on Mondays, he leaves earlier than me. He leaves like 4 or 5 hours earlier than me. And as he was leaving, he said, I sure hope everything doesn't fall apart the moment I get out the door since you're alone. Anyway, bye. And like 10 minutes after he left, I get a message. It's like, hey, the big system went down.
Yeah, you get a message that's like, the server room is on fire.
Basically.
We do have a lot of housekeeping, so let's get into this. First up, if you still haven't gotten the message, we are doing a mailbag episode. If you're on the public feed, I think this episode goes live on July 1st, which is the day before the deadline. So if you're listening to the regular public feed, the edited show, not the Patreon feed or whatever, and you're just now hearing about this, and you want to write into our mailbag, then please go do so. We have a thread in Discord. You can also email us at retrowarriorspodcast@gmail.com for our mailbag episodes that we've got coming up to give us a little bit of a break.
Yes.
Because it's just been nuts.
Yeah, it's been
nuts.
a somehow busy summer.
I put it in here in this recording block. I've had my wife out of town for 3 days. I went to a 4-day convention. My 10-year wedding anniversary occurred, and it was Father's Day.
Yeah.
So, thank you, kudos to you, Saturn, for doing literally all of the work, because I sure as hell didn't contribute anything to these episodes.
And I've been working overtime at work for the last couple of weeks. Today is my first day off since last Tuesday. So, yeah.
And there have been times where we have discussed like, hey, what does us taking a month off look like? And I don't really
And it looks
want...
like a mailbag.
It looks like a mailbag. I don't want to have to do that.
Right.
We have the capability. We can pause the Patreon for a month and just like
We
take a
don't
month
do that.
off. But if we can get enough questions to fill a mailbag episode, really, what would be amazing would to fill 2 episodes. Then that would give us a nice break.
Yeah.
Because we have been on, we've been on accelerated recording schedules for 3 solid recording sessions in a row.
Oh, that's true. Because, we've had to reschedule.
We've had rescheduling and time crunches in the upcoming. It has been an absolute disaster. So if you want to help the show out, then obviously we have a Patreon, but also you can write into our mailbag.
Yeah.
And
It's
I think
free.
I put a little bumper out, a little announcement on the podcast feed, and I think in it I said, we aren't limiting the scope, so ask us whatever you want.
Oh, boy.
And I don't know if I regret that. I guess I'll find out.
All right. So here's the thing. We don't guarantee we will answer your question on the air.
Right. Yes,
So-
obviously.
So ask whatever the fuck you want, and if we don't want to answer it, we can skip it. We will not answer questions about each other's penis sizes because we definitely don't know.
I'll answer it definitively. I don't know, but I will answer it.
Yeah, surely we don't know. There's no way we could know that.
So yeah, please do write in for our mailbag. The deadline is July 2nd, 2024. So please get it in. If it's like the middle of the day on July 2nd, then you may still have time. If you're listening like July 2nd and it's like 3:00 in the afternoon, go rush in there and send a question real quick.
Unless you're in a part of the world where 3:00 in the afternoon happens.
Right. Would not still be on
later
July
than us.
2nd
Yeah.
on. Look, you'll figure the details out. Just it would be really awesome. That it would be an awesome help.
We'll post
to us.
in the mailbag thread when submissions are over.
Yeah, or I might post and be like, hey, y'all got 12 hours or whatever.
Yeah.
In the Discord thread, so that puts a little bit of a timer on it. Anyway, also after the ending theme of this show, this episode. We're gonna have the after party with Guy. He's not been on for a few episodes.
He's not been on for a couple months.
Yeah, honestly, it's been so crazy that I kind of didn't notice that how long it had been. It's getting to the point where like we're slapping out episodes and I don't even remember recording them anymore. Everything is so fast. Everything's going so fast.
Yeah. Justin is still on episode 380 right now.
Yeah, are we in the 400s now?
Yeah,
man. My week.
Yes,
still playing Balatro. I have almost gotten my white chip completion, the default difficulty completion on all of the decks. I'm about to have to start beating the game on higher difficulties to continue unlocking new decks.
That was really intimidating for me to try to play it on higher difficulties.
Yeah.
And then when I started playing it on higher difficulties, I found that it still feels very balanced. It still feels like the same game, just less fair. Which with random number, with the randomization of everything, it's just you get a bad hand.
Yeah. Yeah. So I've got one deck left to complete the game, and then I need to jump up. I think the next difficulty is red chip. It goes white chip, red chip. Is that the next one?
I think so.
And then I got to start working through that. And the game. I never am just playing Balatro.
Yeah.
It never occurs that I am only playing Balatro. I am playing Balatro and talking to my kid or watching TV or listening to something. It's my multitasking game at this moment. There is always another thing going on, and I probably lose 20% of my runs because I don't realize I'm in a boss ante or whatever.
Yeah, I hate that.
And I fuck up and I play something and I'm like, oh shit, it's a boss. That didn't count. Even though on the screen it will pop up in the middle of it and be like, this will not score you points due to the boss ante or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
And I still fucking click it. Yeah.
I'll regularly load up Balatro while I'm at the office if it's slow and everything is actually working for a minute. I'll load up Balatro and waste some time on that.
Yeah, this is my ridiculous Kickstarter prediction. I think the next indie game that gets a physical tabletop game after Slay the Spire is going to be Balatro, and it's going to be like $150, and it's going to be ridiculous, and you're going to be like, why would I buy that?
Yeah, that would be so complicated. I don't know that I would want to play it, just because you'd have to remember all the different rules for the jokers, and it better come with a calculator.
I don't know how they do it. Apparently, the Slay the Spire game came out, and it's supposed to be a very good representation of Slay the Spire on the tabletop. Right. But it's $100.
You know that eventually, once you get up to the highest difficulties and the most ridiculous jokers, Balatro does start playing with infinite numbers, right?
True, yeah, that is true. They would have to scale it all down.
Yeah, a lot.
Which they did do. They did do a Slay the Spire. Everything is scaled down, so like even when things are going bananas, it's like little numbers.
I was reading the rules of the FF14 tabletop game, and like it's like you have like 3 HP here, whereas in the actual game I have 140,000 HP.
Yeah. So they're pretty good about scaling it, but it's. Also, I've been playing a game called Skald. Skald. I don't know. Skald.
Yeah.
And it is. I picked it up just kind of on a whim. Steam recommended it to me. It looked cool, and it is real good. It's sort of. I've seen people compare it to Ultima. And I guess that's kind of accurate. It's kind of like an Ultima old school D&D-esque sort of computer RPG. Like I don't want to say CRPG because then you think Baldur's Gate, and it's kind of it sort of predates that, right?
Which the things we used to call
yes
CRPGs.
Yes. Yeah. And it's all like Lovecraftian horror, body horror themed stuff. And it's just, man, it's real good. If it's I've been having a real good time with it. Nice. Everything's fast and snappy, and it's real kind of dark and gross and very tactical. Having a real good time with it. There is a lot of story and reading, very lengthy dialogue sessions. But then the combat is so snappy and tactical and fun that it kind of makes up for it.
I'm looking at pictures of it. I appreciate the faux old SVGA graphics.
Yes, it does. Really, and it's also, Like it's not like they didn't just make it look that way and then do it in fucking Unity. Like the install of the game is 500 megabytes. So it's like legit. Like I don't know the back end tech, but a lot of these games you see them and it's like, oh, it looks old school, but it's just like Unity on the back end, so it's still a 4 or 5 gig install because it just looks that way. This seems to have been actually kind of built from the ground up to be.
500 megs would still be massive for a game of that era.
Yeah. No, don't get me wrong. I mean, granted, a good chunk of that might just be the fucking soundtrack. I mean, depending on the file format. I don't know. But even really small games are usually much bigger than half a gig.
Yeah, because games that looked like that back in the day would have been like 500K.
Yeah. So it's definitely bigger than they were, but a lot smaller than, you know what I mean? You see games and it's like, oh, this was built in Unreal or whatever. It just looks old. So on the back end, it's still pretty big. It's got a lot of includes.
I was looking at a game the other day, and its install was 280 gigabytes.
My God.
Yeah.
Are you downloading a person? What the fuck? Anyway, Scald Against the Black Priory is the full title, and it's just been really, really fun. Just a fun, small, tactical, kind of brutal horror themed thing. It reminds me, for whatever reason, it very much reminds me of Infernax. It is not the same type of gameplay.
It doesn't look like it at all.
No, gameplay wise, it is not like Infernax whatsoever. But I think it reminds me of it just kind of vibe wise, like tonally, it's that kind of Lovecraftian, like body horror kind of stuff that Infernax had.
Yeah.
And it's just I don't know. There's some kind of insubstantial like quality that I can't quite nail down. That like it's this thing of like Infernax felt like it was perfectly balanced between like being this love letter to retro stuff, but still feeling modern.
Yeah.
And being modern playable. This game also has like the accessibility option. There's like 100 different fucking things in there. You can change like damage multipliers, HP, like a huge page of accessibility options.
Nice.
Which I always greatly appreciate. So I the whole time I was playing it, I was like, this feels like Infernax, but I don't know why. And I think it's just kind of a vibe. It's very accessible. It's very fun. It's very modern feeling, but also very much still that kind of retro love letter. So I've been greatly enjoying Scald.
Nice.
What have you been playing?
So I picked up Observer because I am stoked about the upcoming Silent Hill 2 remake.
Yes. When is that?
That is this October.
Ew.
And it looks pretty good. I'm still a little cautious about it because there's been and it's frustrating because there is some controversy, but it's all from idiots. Well, it's mostly from idiots. There's some controversy that is not from the idiots, but most of the controversy is from idiots. That I don't want to get into, but I am still cautiously optimistic about it, and the developer of it is Bloober Team. Who also did the Medium, which I played a little while back on Xbox. But I wanted to get a feel for some of their other games, and their most famous game is Layers of Fear, which is a walking simulator horror game. And I was like, I don't really want a walking simulator. It's not my style.
Right.
So I decided I would try Observer because it is a cyberpunk horror game starring Rutger Hauer.
like
they paid Rutger Hauer to do the voice acting, and the characters modeled after him.
I realized what I was about to say was Rutger Hauer, like from Blind Fury, and then I realized that no one else probably remembers that movie.
Now, I would say Rutger Hauer from Blade Runner.
Yeah,
there you go.
But the last movie I saw him in was Blind Fury. So that's what I was going to say, and then I was like, Justin, you idiot, no one has fucking seen that dumbass movie.
I think I might have seen that on VHS back in the day.
I highly recommend it. It's a real good piece of shit.
But no, I was excited because I'm like, this is a cyberpunk thing with Rutger Hauer.
With Rutger Hauer, yeah.
And so, I want to see what is going on there. And then it's first person, so you never actually see him. which is frustrating to me because
why did they fucking pay? I guess they paid for his voice then.
Yeah, he voices it, but also they did the likeness of him too.
Yeah,
you just don't see it, which is frustrating. And also, I'm not a huge fan of first-person games anyway. And this is one of the last things that he did before he passed a few years ago too. And it sounds like he did not care at all. Like it sounds like somebody handed him his lines while he was cooking dinner or something. And so he is just like kind of paying attention to what he is saying, which for most of the game is fine because he's like a detached detective who barely cares. Right. And then every now and then it's like a scene where he's talking to his son and he's like, "No, get back. Don't do that, son. I need to find him." And I just, it's almost hilarious how like disconnected he feels in it. But the actual like gameplay and tone is neat, and the story feels like it is going somewhere. I'm not done with it just yet, but it does a good job of like doing the like not quite horror and or body violence or any of that stuff, but just being really tense and creepy, and I appreciate that. But there so far has bin no action or combat whatsoever, so I think this might also have been a walking simulator and just not advertised as such. Or it might be an adventure game that happens to be first person. I'm not sure, but I'm still enjoying the story enough that I'm going to go through and see if Rutger Hauer ever actually cares at some point. That'll be exciting. Also, I'm still playing through the Rocket Knight games and the collection.
Yeah, the collection.
Yeah. And I had forgotten to mention it does have Rewind, which is nice. I appreciate that. And it has the different regional versions in the collection. So
always fun.
You can play the correct Japanese versions that weren't made harder for the rental market. But other than that, it is the most vanilla, no frills, no options collection Konami could have put out.
Yeah, that kind of seems to be their MO when it comes to Konami classic collections to begin with. They're just like, here is a decent representation.
I feel like they put in a half an ass on the Turtles collection.
That was them. That one was pretty. That one was pretty good. I guess I was thinking of the Gradius and Contra and Castlevania collections they did in recent
I would say
recent
this
years.
Almost feels like slightly less effort than the Castlevania collection.
That's hard to do. Would they not put graphics on the menu? It's just a
pretty basic
black screen with white text.
Right. The only options you get for each game are start game or boss rush.
All right then.
And then in the game you've got a really super generic CRT filter or unfiltered, and you have some borders, and that's about it. No like fancy development art or anything like that.
Well, it's sad.
Yeah, but they're still fun games though. So it's something.
Yeah. Let's do the news.
All right.
First up, I feel like we reported this already. Fallout ported to Nintendo. Was it the DS? Did we report on it being? Fallout was ported to Nintendo 3DS.
All right, we may have discussed that last week, and I think we discussed it
previously.
That's my bad.
Fan-made decompiled port of Jak and Daxter was released. Supports online and local multiplayer. I feel like we did that one too.
Did we? Did I accidentally grab the wrong day? I may have accidentally grabbed the wrong day.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
I did the news at the last minute. That was my bad. I usually do that in advance, and
I'm not sure about the next news item, but the one after that I know is new. So if we have already reported those, then you're welcome for the reminder that Fallout has now been ported to your 3DS.
Yay!
And that I feel like I remember talking about Jak and Daxter is what it was.
Maybe we did. So sorry about that.
Don't forget.
I couldn't remember which
there.
day we recorded, so I may have grabbed the wrong day because we
get it before it's C-Indeed.
Yeah, We've had weird recording schedules, and it is mixed up
strange. Things. Game Boy Mega Man games added to Nintendo Switch Online, which cool.
Yes.
But more cool than that, fans who have been upgrading the games into Color DX versions also announced the long-canceled Mega Man Mania collection.
Yes.
Which hopefully Capcom just continues to let slide. That's kind of Capcom's pretty good about that. So hopefully.
And if you haven't been following these DX upgrades to the Game Boy Mega Man games, they look fantastic. They look so nice.
You think they'll do Extreme next?
No.
Why are you laughing, Saturn? What's wrong with the Mega Man Extreme?
Well, one, it's already Game Boy Color.
But maybe they could make it better.
Maybe they can remake Mega Man Extreme in the Mega Man X engine.
Yeah, I'd play that. GOG will allow users to bequeath their library to their next of kin. This is coming after news of Steam saying that they would not let you do that.
I gotta say, we've been saying the word bequeath on the show a lot lately.
Yeah, I like the word because it sounds like a word you're not supposed to say, but it's fine. Bequeath. Here is my bequeathment. I think they did say that you do have to prove that you died, though. I think there has to be proof of death. I don't know if they send a representative like to your funeral or how that works.
I gotta say, as somebody who has dealt with a funeral relatively recently, it was last year, but proving that someone died is, one, a thing you have to do a lot and is more difficult than I had expected.
Yeah, you kind of just imagine that when you call like a phone company or whatever, and you're like, oh, they died. They'd be like, oh, okay.
Yeah, no, they're like, all right, well, send us a copy of the death certificate, and we also need a copy of who is next of kin, and there needs to be legal proof.
Send us a picture of his corpse just to prove it. Maybe with a knife in it so that we know he's for sure dead.
And we need a hair sample. It's just such a weird thing.
Sony removes the claim that the PlayStation 5 supports 8K from all system boxes. I guess it doesn't support 8K.
So this is apparently the thing, is it can theoretically output in 8K.
But nothing does?
Yeah, well, one, they haven't turned on that feature yet. So even if you have an 8K television, it still maxes at 4K.
Yeah.
And somebody was playing around with a hacked PS5 and found that you would be lucky to get 15 frames a second on anything in 8K.
Yeah.
So no, it does not. And the box even says 8K 120 FPS all in one little badge.
Yeah,
that is incorrect.
Yeah. Balatro is getting a physical release on Switch.
At least on Switch. Possibly.
I like the game enough that I might get it even though I already have it and probably wouldn't play it on Switch. But it's just, I like it. It's a good game.
I wouldn't mind getting a physical copy of that just because, man, that guy needs credit for what a great game he has made.
For sure. Source code for the SNES port of Doom has been preserved by the original developers, so we can all enjoy that version of Doom.
I think he uploaded it to archive.org too, so
that's good.
Nice.
That's good. Yeah. Preservation-wise, that's really good stuff to have.
Right.
But that's not an awesome version of Doom.
No. But still, it's nice to see how someone made it work in the first place.
New Power Rangers Brawler has been announced. This looks very exciting. I was really into the Super Nintendo Power Rangers Brawler, which came out on the right system at the right age for me.
Yeah.
So I was very into that. And I remember being so mad in the game about what they did to my boy Billy. And they made him all like dumpy and shitty and stupid. And
which one is he?
He's the Blue Ranger. Yeah, so he's the stereotypical teenager group. He's the nerd. That was his
nerd character. Okay,
that was his role that he played.
I kind of remember that.
Yeah,
I feel like I remember at the time magazine saying the Genesis Power Rangers game was better, but I never played any of them.
Eventually I ended up playing both of them, but when I was a kid I didn't have a Genesis, so we I played the Super Nintendo version a lot. And the new one looks pretty fun. We're kind of in really a good era for brawlers in general. We've gotten some really fantastic entries in the genre in recent memory.
I remember when we were first starting the show was around the time that Double Dragon 4 came out.
Yeah,
and
that was kind of near the beginning.
Yeah,
we were sort of on the coattails of Neon by a few years.
And that was a worrying trend for the brawler trajectory, because that was not a great game.
No, it wasn't. But I mean, just in recent years, we've gotten the new Ninja Turtles is probably the best Ninja Turtles brawler by not a small margin. Streets of Rage 4, we've gotten both River City Girls. We got this new Power Rangers thing coming out. There's been some really good brawler collections. Like, it's a good time to be a fan of the old belt scrollers.
Right.
For sure. Oculus founder Palmer Luckey's company, Mod Retro, announced the Chromatic, an FPGA Game Boy clone. Don't we already have one of those?
Yeah, this one's apparently a lot cheaper than the Analog Pocket.
Isn't this the guy that made a VR headset that kills you when you die in a video game?
That would be him, yes.
Yeah, he seems well adjusted.
Yeah, well, I've got a lot of things to say about him that I'm not going to say. Now, it does come with a port of Tetris that is officially licensed, and it looks like a really generic port of Tetris.
Yeah.
Other than that, it seems to play games functionally, which is fine. But it does appear to be cheaper than the Analog Pocket, which I'll give it that. But I would rather just emulate these things or use a emulation handheld or something else.
Well, we also just recently got that FPGA Game Boy Color kit.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah,
believe
that
it's
you can just add
compatible
to
with
a legit Game Boy Color. That's true.
And it's like $60
that's
for
also
the kit. Like
pretty
it's
dang cheap.
really cheap.
I think this one also plays GBA games. I'd have to double check though.
Yeah. Raspberry Pi has had an IPO on the London Stock Exchange, meaning that they're becoming a public company, which is
worrying to me.
Alarming.
Yeah.
Quite alarming.
Yeah.
A fan-made Sega Saturn handheld proof of concept has been shown, which anytime we see these, it doesn't mean there's going to be a product anywhere, right?
But it is neat looking.
It's cool to see these little projects. Most of them end up being one-offs, though.
Yeah.
So anyone who's like, maybe this means we'll like see someone make one, just don't get your hopes up for it. But it's cool that it exists. It's a neat thing.
Yeah.
And finally, Japan also enforces that Apple and Google allowed third-party app stores.
Yeah. So I meant to put allow there. My bad. I was talking
while
I was writing that.
This is part of the lawsuit, so that they now have to allow third-party app stores. I'm presuming.
So now we will have, at least in Europe and Japan, mandatory access to third-party app stores. So I'm glad that the walled gardens are starting to come down a little bit.
Does Google not already allow? I mean, I've F-Droid on mine.
Yeah, Google has always allowed that.
I guess they just wrote them in that they all have to.
The rule was that Google, if you wanted to have proper Android branding and Android certification on your phone, it couldn't come pre-installed with a third-party app store.
Oh, okay.
Whereas Apple blocked them outright. And now the new rules in both Europe and Japan say that manufacturers must be allowed to include whatever app store they want with a device.
Yeah. Which brings us to our topic at hand, which is bad ports of good games.
I love bad ports of good games, Justin.
Which was a topic idea that I came up with, and you were instantly thrilled.
Oh, yeah, I love this.
You were so excited.
I love weird ports, and I especially love bad weird ports.
And somehow you've played all of them.
Oh, yeah.
Because I came up with the idea, and I was like, well, you're going to have to give me something to work with here, because I don't know, man. I mean, I can think of a couple that weren't great.
Eventually, I just had to stop writing, and I had so many more ideas on paper. And I was like, no, this is going to be like a 4-hour episode if I don't stop myself.
As far as synopsis, what happens when the best ideas are put in the hands of people with no time or budget? Sometimes it seems also with no skill or vision.
Sometimes that also happens,
based off some of these. But we'll be nice and say it's usually time or budget restrictions. We have to start with scope and definitions. This is not an exhaustive list. Right. Like Saturn said, he just had to eventually stop writing. We could there could be a whole podcast of just bad ports.
Oh man, that'd be great.
There are multiple reasons a bad port can happen. Lack of budget, underpowered hardware, lack of understanding what made the game good to begin with, corporate interference. There can be time crunches. Right. There can be all kinds of weird things. Sometimes just weird manufacturing issues. Right. Sometimes just bugs that people miss.
Yep.
There's all kinds of reasons that these
sometimes
can happen.
Rights issues happen.
Yes. We don't really have a way to know why some of these are as bad as they are, and some of them are shockingly bad.
Yeah.
But we can make educated guesses and draw our own conclusions based off what we see here.
Yeah.
It's worth noting that we're not going to be covering games like Dragon's Lair and NES that are basically not the same game at all. or not even trying to be the same game. Although I would make the argument about some of these DOS ports that it's definitely not the same game, but I think they were trying to be.
Yeah.
But so those types of ports, are really kind of more adaptations.
Yeah, right.
And those are kind of out. As far as bad experiences and like initial thoughts, I don't know, man. I didn't play DOS games when DOS was a thing.
Yeah. And not all these are DOS games, for the record.
Right. But there were a lot of bad ports on DOS.
And similarly, there were bad ports of DOS games to other platforms. This was just because all the hardware was so drastically different back then, you saw it more commonly.
I have played a lot of bad NES ports, not knowing that they were bad NES ports, though.
Yeah, like Double Dragon.
Because I was born in '88.
Yeah.
So I missed the like resurgence of arcades entirely. And so a lot of like arcade NES ports were really bad, but I didn't know because that's the only version me and my friends knew.
Right.
So we had no idea.
You just assumed that this is what Ghosts and Goblins is supposed to be.
Yeah, we had that exactly. Yeah. And I played the shit out of Ghosts and Goblins. It was a beloved title in my house. And so it's just kind of one of those things where we didn't know, and it wasn't until later that I kind of learned. And at that point, I had already kind of built some nostalgia for these shitty arcade ports on NES a lot of the time. So it is what it is. What about you, Saturn? What was your introduction to garbage?
Pac-Man on Atari, and so by the time I was cognizant, we already had Pac-Man and Miss Pac-Man on Atari, and playing both of them, I was like, why would anybody play Pac-Man? This is a trash garbage game. And why does anybody talk about this as if it is a good game when obviously Miss Pac-Man is 100 times better of a game?
Yeah.
And then years later, I saw the original Pac-Man at the arcade. I'm like, this isn't even close to what we have at home. What happened here? So it was that was probably my introduction of how south things can go with a port job, and I'm not sure I've encountered too many since then that have been so drastic.
Well, let's
we'll
talk
get
more
to some
about Pac-Man, the Atari 2600 port of Pac-Man. Tell me what the fuck happened here. What's going on?
So,
and I want to say I'd never played this version of the game until for the show.
Oh man,
I played it for the show.
Okay, so this is a famous one, famously bad. So we just kind of we're legally obligated to mention this. Just real quick, the original game was made by Namco for arcades in 1980, and the Atari port came out in March of 82. What is bad about it? You got the flicker, which is atrocious. It is painful. The ghosts will constantly blink in and out. If you try to watch a YouTube video of this, you may not even see that there are ghosts on the screen because the frame rate of YouTube will just not sync up with it.
So I'd been told that the flickering was really bad, and over the years, because this like you said, this is a famously bad port, so I have heard of Atari 2600 Pac-Man and how bad it was, but what I'd always heard was it was a sprite limitation on the Atari 2600.
No, it can't be.
And I don't think that that's true because there's other games with 5 moving sprites.
Including Ms. Pac-Man.
So it just seems like it was very badly fucking made.
Yeah.
And it's first of all, it's butt ugly.
Yeah.
It's so butt ugly.
Yeah, Pac-Man's not a circle. They replaced the fruit with a weird yellow square.
Yeah, the fruit popped up, and I was like, "The fuck is that supposed to be?" It just looks like a brick.
And I will say,
bricks now.
I love the sound effects. Like they're awful. They're garbage sound effects, but I have such nostalgia for them. Like this is some of my earliest memories are awful Atari Pac-Man sounds.
And it also seems that I only could get through not very much of it. But does the maze just not change?
No, it never changes.
It's just the same maze over and over?
Yeah, forever. The ghosts don't turn blue as long as you go further, and they become faster.
The ghosts are also the same color and have no personality. Because the fun thing about Pac-Man is each ghost has a different personality. Yes. They act differently.
Right.
Which, granted, I get it, limitations of the 2600, but at least make them a different fucking color. I don't know, man.
So this is
very bad.
Where we know what happened because the developer has spoken about it at length many times over the years.
Yes.
So it was developed by a guy named Todd Fry for Atari. He was given 4 months to port the game between when Atari got the rights and when they wanted it on store shelves. So really, the 4 months weren't even all programming time because production time also had to be in there.
Yeah.
He blames a lot of the issues of the game with the fact that Atari's leadership insisted that he use a 4 kilobit ROM chip instead of an 8 kilobit ROM chip.
Now, do we know if Miss Pac-Man was on an 8 kilobit ROM chip?
It was, yes.
Presumably it was. Yeah, okay.
Yes. Also, he had already come up with the programming technique that would have prevented flicker that was later used in Miss Pac-Man.
Yeah.
But management negatively responded to it and said they don't want him to use that because it's too much extra code. It would take up too much space on the cartridge. You wouldn't have room for proper graphics, whatever. And so they heavily discouraged him from implementing this fix.
So that would imply that the version we got is the version that they think looks good enough to justify that performance.
And that's the thing is after he finished, he handed it over to marketing so that they could, start producing all the marketing materials. And while the game was in production, marketing also complained to Atari's management to say, this is unacceptable. The flicker is horrible. We can't sell this to people. And Atari went ahead and sold it anyway. And it was one of the highest selling games on the platform.
Of course it fucking was. I mean, there's no open critic to tell you that it's a piece of shit, and you're like, it's Pac-Man. How do you fuck up Pac-Man? Circle eats smaller circles. Right. That's it. As long as you got that, you're good.
Well, they didn't have that.
Turns out, no.
They had oblong, squarish thing eats rectangles.
Eats yellow bricks.
Yeah.
I was even after all these years of hearing how bad it was, I was still kind of shocked at how bad it was.
Yeah, it's rough.
It was bad. In my head, I was like, I thought I played it for our Pac-Man episode, but I don't remember doing it. And if I'd done it, I'd blocked it because man, I was playing it and I was like, God, this is so much worse than I thought it could possibly be.
That's so bad.
Tell me about these Capcom PC ports, which I played some of, and I'll never forgive you for.
So this is a series of games that High-Tech put out in the late 80s and early 90s. So it's a handful of games. And I will say that this is when I kind of broke my rule as far as not including games that are technically different games, just because of how bad these are. I wanted to talk about them.
I think these should be included because they seem to want to be.
Well, some of them. Do.
Yeah. All right. Yeah.
We'll start with Street Fighter because that was the first one that I played. I had got the Street Fighter 2 PC port, and it came with Street Fighter 1. And my PC at the time could not handle Street Fighter 2. So I could only play Street Fighter 1.
Which people that don't remember had big pressure-sensitive buttons in the arcade.
Yeah, well, there was two different versions of the arcade. There was the pressure-sensitive buttons.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. There was
button.
The later one that was the multi-button. Yeah.
And it's reduced down to one button on PC.
Oh, you don't say. Is it Saturn? How is it? Because here's the thing. I got both of these.
Yeah.
And I unzipped Street Fighter 2.
Yeah.
And I played it, and I was like, okay, and we'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah.
And then I unzipped Street Fighter 1, and it was Street Fighter 2 again.
Oh, well, that's weird.
And so I couldn't find Street Fighter 1. It was all Street Fighter 2.
So it is not good, first of all.
Oh, really?
Oh, it's really bad. It's the worst. First of all, they cut it all down so that it looks like an early to mid NES game as far as pixel density. So you got all these like really shitty versions of all the characters. They're all teeny tiny. And then you have this enormous border around the screen to compensate for the teeny tiny characters.
Yes.
The sound is awful. On my original PC, because the speed of the game is tied to CPU speed, it was way too fast. So like the characters would just flip around the screen all the time. So I had to play it on another friend's Tandy 1000, which meant that it only supported CGA graphics. So it's all pink and blue Street Fighter.
Yeah.
and it's really bad. It's just an awful port of what is not even the best game to begin with.
Yeah.
So I don't recommend it.
I want to talk about these Mega Man games so bad because when we were doing this episode, this is what I jumped straight into. I was like, yeah, Mega Man.
Why did you do that?
First of all, I didn't grow up in an era where I needed to know the difference between like CGA and EGA and VGA and all that. Right. And I always forget. And so I always just pick whatever the default option is. So I played like half an hour of Mega Man on DOS in CGA graphics. And I thought it was a fucking joke. I went and I was like, this cannot actually be the port of Mega Man. This is a hilarious joke, right? This is like a fuck you. Like what it felt like was, you remember when Flash games were just kind of kicking off?
Yeah.
And, like Flash and Shockwave and everything was going around, and people would be like, oh, I made Mario, but it's just like an infinite scrolling thing where you jump over one pipe and jump on one Goomba, and that's
it. Makes
like
fart noises.
That's what this is.
Yes.
Yeah, and I loaded it up and I was like, no, this is like some fucking like unofficial like shit that I found. No way on God's green earth was this in a box that cost money.
So it was in a box that cost money.
God damn it.
I got this later on. Actually, it may have come with Street Fighter. I don't remember how I ended up getting this. But I remember I got both of them in one collection.
Yeah.
So we know a lot about the development of this one because the Gaming Historian released a video about it. And he did a lot of work and learning about it.
Poor Norman.
And he interviewed the developer and learned all kinds of stuff. So if you want to know more, go watch that. But these are not the games that they are claiming to be, because the box art tells you that it is Mega Man and Mega Man 3. It's not. These. No. So it's a guy named Steven Rosner made these in his spare time while working at Capcom, and then he left Capcom to sell these because Capcom wouldn't let him program things, and he was bored not being able to program.
After playing these, I don't think he should be allowed to program ever again. He should be forbade from doing so.
Yeah, so clearly, I don't think he had a grasp of what Mega Man was, because he included all these non-robotic enemies in the game. Like there's dogs and bats and shit, whereas Mega Man only ever fights robots. Second, he clearly did not understand the physics of Mega Man.
No,
because they are bad.
It has the same physics as like the 2D Duke Nukem games.
Right? Yeah, it's rough. It looks bad. It sounds bad. Playing it in CGA is real bad. That's the Tandy 1000 that I'd played Street Fighter on. I also played these on. Yeah. And
hey, look, of course, Mega Man was cyan, so
we'll give him that.
Halfway there, right?
Yeah, standing in the pink world. Yeah, it's part of me has some nostalgia for CGA era graphics because of playing things like this. Mm-hmm. But for kids who didn't live through the CGA era of IBM compatible games, it's pretty rough to see everything in only cyan, magenta, black, and white.
As someone who didn't have to live through that, I mean, we had VGA by the time I was, because I mean, it was mid-90s by the time I was old enough to really be using a computer in any meaningful way. Yeah, everything. Look, I mean, fucking Half-Life was coming out by the time I was old enough to like functionally use a computer, right? And so yeah, Street Fighter 2. I loaded it up and I was like, this looks pretty fucking good.
Yeah.
And then anything started moving and I was like, oh no. It's got a single digit frame rate.
Yeah. When it's doing well.
So it's running at like 8 FPS with tons of frame skip.
Yeah.
And it sounds bad and it's bad.
And it's reduced down to 2 inputs. So you have one punch, one kick.
It's like have you ever loaded up a game on your like computer that like it couldn't handle, and it's just so choppy that you're just kind of watching a slideshow and you're instantly getting killed? It's like that. It just felt
except for it's designed that way.
I felt like my i9 with 4060 just couldn't handle it.
So I got to say, I was a console kid growing up. I mostly played things on my consoles, but we had computers. We had the Commodore, then we had a 286 and a 486 and stuff. So I had computers. There was access. And for the people that are now like PC Master Race people, this was my introduction to PC gaming. Was awkward ports of games that I loved that ran at like 7 frames a second. So it took me a very long time to get into the mindset where I was willing to accept PC gaming.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's real. In this, Street Fighter 2 was the best of these, by the way.
Oof.
And then fortunately after this, Capcom started doing their own PC ports, so Mega Man X and Super Street Fighter 2 were much better.
Functional. Yeah. Let's talk StarCraft on N64.
Yeah.
Also a game I played for the first time for this show.
So if we're talking about, I don't want to make it seem like we're disparaging PC ports, because sometimes
right, you have
PC
to include
games,
the console ports.
Yeah, come to console. So, what did you think of StarCraft on N64, Justin?
I loaded it up, knowing it's a famously bad port, and was still disappointed. In my head, I was like, how are they going to do mouse movement?
How are they going to do mouse movement, Justin?
Well, it turns out they didn't do mouse movement.
Exactly.
They're like, we'll just map it to a stick, and then like the A button is your left click. Guess what, you fucking idiots? You need more granular ass selection than you're going to get on an N64 controller, joystick, and an A button. Because so like instantly, I'm trying to like select my guys, and they're all clumped together, and I can't filter out the people that I don't want. It looks like fucking dog shit.
Yep.
It's unplayable. It's bad.
I knew one guy at the time who took the time to learn the controls on it, and he could play through the entire campaign.
My problem was anytime I went to select anybody, it was so hard to get the granular control enough to not select my SCVs.
Right. Yeah.
And I just couldn't do it.
That same guy, I later got him the PC version.
Yeah.
And
he couldn't play it.
The first thing he said was, "This is way too fast." and he could not play it because he kept trying to like clunk his way through, and he was not used to the precision of it.
Yeah.
So maybe people who played this version first will agree with him and say that we're crazy, but we're not, because it's not a great port. But it did add split screen multiplayer.
Oh, there you go. That's great.
That's what you want in an RTS, right? You want to be able to just see the other player's
I want to definitely see the other player's screen at all times in StarCraft. Yeah, that way you can see the Zerg Rush from its inception, from its birth to it demolishing your base.
Yeah, it felt more awkward than bad, but it's also bad.
Yeah, it was really not.
I also want to give an honorable mention to the N64 port of Command and Conquer as well.
Yes, I forget about that.
Because it's basically the same thing, but Command and Conquer.
Like, I get that people were like, oh, we're putting joysticks on systems now. We can make them emulate a mouse. No,
you can't.
Especially not those joysticks. They're not good enough yet. You need to stop.
Yeah, it's not what it was for.
Let's talk Metal Gear. You have listed the NES and C64 port. I only have played the NES port, but I have played a lot of it.
Yes. So, for people who don't know, the game wasn't originally on NES. It was on MSX.
No. Yes.
And the MSX version was released in Japan and Europe, but here in North America, we only got the NES version and later the C64 version.
I love Metal Gear on NES.
Oh.
I love it. I think it's legitimately fun. I enjoy it the same way that like I enjoyed the first Ninja Turtles game on NES, where you're like, look, I see the problems. I mean, I'm aware of what is, but it's still just fun, right?
Yeah, it's a game. It has a lot of bugs and glitches on the NES version. And also, there's the localization, which is not great.
It's not good. No, it's I Feel Asleep.
I Feel Asleep is one of my favorite NES lines. And I actually found a Hardcore Gaming 101 article that was just things missing from the MSX version on the NES version of Metal Gear, like an entire full-blown article, because there's a lot of, including Metal Gears. There's no Metal Gear in NES Metal Gear.
No,
they skipped that part.
I'll say this: it's the best Metal Gear game on NES.
Yeah, that's true. Not a high bar, but that's true. And then 3 years later, Konami released it on Commodore 64.
How?
First of all, they ported the NES version to Commodore 64, not the MSX version, and they outsourced it.
Oh no!
A company called Unlimited Software did this. It runs at a lower resolution, and because of the way the C64s supported Atari controllers, you only had one button on the joystick. So any other inputs were moved over to the keyboard. So you're having to juggle keyboard and joystick. They were so cheap and lazy in this porting process that the title screen still says licensed by Nintendo of America. And for people who don't remember the C64, it had 3 different ways to use software. You could plug it into the cartridge port, which was fast and instant, but had very little storage. You had the tape drive, which had a lot more storage, but required you to rewind things and wait for the tape to catch up to what you're doing, and load everything into the RAM and all that stuff. Or you had discs, where it would just instantly load whatever was on the disc. And by instantly, I mean it would grab that sector of the disc and it would take it 4 minutes to do it.
Yeah.
And this was a disc-based game. So every time...
So what you're saying is even worse than the NES version.
Yes. So like imagine the NES version. Like you've played NES Metal Gear. You know how sometimes you have to get onto a truck, but then it's the wrong truck and you have to get off of the truck and move on to the next truck.
Yes.
Imagine every time you get on or off a truck, you have to wait 4.5 minutes for the disc to load.
You get to think about your mistakes that have led you to this point.
Also, the C64 famously has a good sound chip, the SID chip. Whoever ported this just took the NES soundtrack, directly grabbed the MIDIs, played them on the SID chip with the worst instruments they could find.
Just whatever it defaulted to.
Yeah, it's really bad. It is funny to watch. So if you want to pull up a YouTube video of it, it's hilarious. But playing it is a nightmare.
Yeah. Let's talk another game I have a lot of experience with, which is the Windows port of Final Fantasy VII.
Yes.
Which was the only version of Final Fantasy VII I had. Because I didn't have a PlayStation. And my friend was like, you have to play this game, Final Fantasy VII. It's incredible. And I would go to his house and I would watch him play it. But he was already like well into the game.
Yeah.
So I'd show up at his house and it was him on like this green overworld and like this little truck like driving around. He had a full party of people and he's moving materia around, traveling all over the world. I was like, this is incredible.
Yeah.
It's like a whole world at your fingertips.
Right.
And so we were at a store, and I saw it, and it was on super sale. I got it really cheap. I know, you're shocked.
Wow.
And I got home, and I opened it, and it's like 5 discs.
Yeah, 4 discs.
And there's a number pad overlay.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's weird. Wonder what that's for. It's because the game is controlled with the number pad.
You could use a gamepad.
I didn't have a fucking gamepad, Saturn.
Why were you playing Final Fantasy VII on PC without a gamepad, Justin?
I was 10. What do you want me to do? I didn't have a job. The only gamepad I had was my N64 controller.
So you see this guy playing a game on a PlayStation, and you're like, I bet that would work well with a keyboard.
Look, I don't know how many 10-year-olds you hang out with, but they don't have a lot of wherewithal. I saw a game that worked on a platform I had, and I bought it, and it crashed all the time. So so early in the game, you end up fighting your way to the top of a little tower, and Sephiroth is there, and you fight him for a second, and then he runs away.
Yeah.
And it's the first, 2-3 hours of the game. It's like right at the beginning.
Yeah.
And my piece...
Shinra building,
Yeah, I would get that far, and then the game would freeze, crash, and delete my save.
Yep. Yep.
And so I would play that section of the game 7, 8, 9, 10 times and then eventually just quit. Of course, playing it all with the fucking number pad.
I finished the entire game on my PC.
Oh my God.
And I had started playing it with a gamepad that looked vaguely like a PlayStation gamepad.
Sure.
And it did not accept most of the inputs on it. So I switched over to the numpad controls and finished the entire game on numpad.
You know, I did get pretty adept at the numpad after a while.
And granted, I was already used to numpad from Civ 2 and Civ 3 wasn't out yet, but Civ 2 played mostly with the numpad, so I was used to that control scheme.
I do remember enjoying that I could like have a drink or a snack in my free hand. Yeah, because my right hand was all on the numpad.
Yeah. It did require a high-end video card for the time.
Oh, yeah, it ran like dog shit on my computer.
Oh, yeah. We had just upgraded our computer to, I want to say it was a Pentium 3 with a ATI Rage 128 card in it. So that was pretty high-end machine at the time, and it could handle it pretty well. But I had previously tried it on my my computer before that, which was running an AMD K6-2 with like the most basic video card, and it would crash all the time. It would just constantly crash to Windows Desktop. But the thing that bugged me the most about it was the MIDI files, because they just took the PlayStation soundtrack, which is MIDI on PlayStation, but with good instruments, because Sony knows how to make a MIDI synth.
Right.
And they converted it to Windows MIDI files, and it would just play with the default Windows MIDI processor, which sounds
lovely.
Sounds like a bunch of 8th graders with recorders trying to play the Final Fantasy VII soundtrack. But it did come with a Yamaha sound synth software you could install to convert the MIDIs to sound closer to the PlayStation version. Not the same, but closer. And it used up so much RAM on my machine that it would also cause my machine to crash.
Nice.
It's just such a awkward, bizarre port.
Now, Final Fantasy VIII, I've never played the PC version of that. Was it equally as bad?
Yeah.
Just in different ways?
Yeah, it's equally bad. It still required a high-end machine. It still had keyboard controls. I don't think it came with the number pad overlay, though, so you just kind of had to figure them out.
Yeah.
It did support gamepads. It supported more of them because EA helped with the translation. However, whenever you're using a gamepad, if you don't remember Final Fantasy VIII, there's a lot of on-screen prompts for things that are like press square to boost or press R1 to use your gunblade or whatever.
Final Fantasy VIII makes the fatal mistake of starting you in a school.
Yeah.
And any game that starts me in a school, I quit because I went to school. I'm done with school. I don't need to be in a school. Please, thank you, goodbye.
So there's a lot of on-screen prompts in Final Fantasy VIII. On PC, it's just press B1 or press B8 or press
whatever
B11.
Yeah.
And I have no idea what any of these are. And it slowed my PC to a crawl at the time. It was just a rough port, and the MIDI conversions are even worse than in Final Fantasy VII, and there was no nice software to try to pretend to make them sound better, and if you used the one from FF7, it would completely crash the game.
Yeah.
It was just an awkward series of ports. And what sucks is every current release of 7 or 8 is based on these ports.
It is. I think a lot of it is just because it's already started on PC, so it's easier to port than doing it,
And what sucks is that means that every current version of Final Fantasy VIII does not have analog control like the PlayStation version did. Because the PC version lost analog control.
Yeah, that's boneheaded.
Yeah, it's so dumb.
What's next here? Double Dragon, and you just wrote Double Dragon parentheses everything.
Yeah, because every port of Double Dragon was bad.
I think it is worth that. I would and this isn't. There are other games where it's like there just never were good ports. Like Bad Dudes is a good example.
Yeah.
Where the arcade version of Bad Dudes is definitely the best version.
Even the original Bad Dudes isn't great.
Look, I don't know how you have to be mean. Okay. But yeah, Double Dragon, I mean, I played the NES version, and this is not one I had growing up. I played it years after the fact. I had already become a fan of brawlers and enjoyed them, and everyone would be like, oh, Double Dragon, that's the OG, that's the original one. You got to play Double Dragon. And I went back, and I was like, all right, I'll play the NES version. And first of all, it's not multiplayer.
Yep.
It's
which arguably makes it a single dragon situation.
It's single dragon. I believe Double Dragon 2 is multiplayer on NES.
That's true. Yes.
But it just is not a good port.
Have you played the Atari 2600 port of Double Dragon?
Why the fuck would I ever do that?
It's hilarious. I'll say that.
Why would I do that?
There was also plenty of home PC and microcomputer ports of Double Dragon. And since they also use Atari joysticks, you've got up to jump.
Oh, how nice.
Yeah, which means you can't move up on the screen easily.
That's not a thing you need to do in Double Dragon very often, is it? Is that a thing you gotta do?
I've heard the Master System port of Double Dragon is good, but I've never cared enough to try it.
But also in the realm of Double Dragon ports, is it good or is it just good for a Double Dragon port?
I've heard it is pretty close to the arcade version.
Oh, well, that's good. I'm always fascinated when Master System gets random good versions of stuff.
Right. And Bubble Bobble is also good on Master System.
Yeah, there's a handful of just like good Master System ports.
Right. That we just never heard about here because we didn't play Master System.
Nobody ever saw a Master System in their lives.
Yeah.
I still have yet to see one in person. One day. One day I'll see one. Let's talk Ultima 5 Warriors of Destiny on NES. There were several Ultima games on NES, weren't there?
Yeah, and I had always heard over the years that all of them were bad. But
me too.
While researching this, because first of all, I'm not an Ultima fan, so I am not the authoritative voice on this, but I found people defending the other NES Ultima ports. And the reason why they still attacked this one was because it was Ultima 5 remade in the Ultima 6 engine, but losing most of its content, which is a weird choice. But again, I don't know enough about Ultima to say anything about any of this because I don't care for any of the Ultima games. I have been told just play the PC versions. So
yeah, it's there's a surprising amount of defenders for any of these like old CRPGs that were ported to console.
Yeah.
For in any time that they're just functional, there seem to be defenders. I think some of it is just people that grew up as like, we didn't have a computer, but we had a Nintendo, so this is how I experienced Ultima. You know, I never had a PC, so Eye of the Beholder to me was a Super Nintendo game, so that's just how I experienced it. And so I think a lot of these CRPG ports, early CRPG ports anyway, are very driven by, you know, nostalgia goggles a lot of the time.
What I didn't realize, one, I'd forgotten there were 3 NES Ultima ports. I thought there was just 1 or 2 because I just never paid attention to them.
Right.
I didn't realize that after Pony Canyon ported those 3 to NES, they did 2 more on Super NES. So apparently Origin was happy with them.
There's some weird shit in the Ultima. I don't know Ultima either, but I know that there's some very weird shit going on. Yeah. So, you know, is what it is.
Then we can get back to games that I do know.
Yes. Before we get into our rapid fire takes, tell me about SimCity 2000. I have not had the displeasure of playing the Super Nintendo port of SimCity 2000, and it's a shame because the first SimCity was so good on Super Nintendo. Possibly the best version of SimCity, arguably.
I still think the Super NES version is the best version of SimCity. SimCity 2000, on the other hand.
So what the fuck happened?
So,
wasn't there a PlayStation port of 2000?
There is. There's a PlayStation and Saturn port, and I'll get to that. So, the Super NES version of SimCity 2000 has the worst load times I've ever seen on the Super Nintendo.
And that's saying a lot because there's like 3 Super Nintendo games with load times.
Yeah. When you rotate the camera, which is a thing you have to do pretty often in SimCity 2000.
Yes.
The game just kind of pauses for like 3 to 6 minutes.
Oh, no.
And you don't know if it's locked up or not. Sometimes there'll be music playing, because if you remember, SimCity 2000 does have music, but it's like ambient music that just occasionally plays.
Yeah, it's just kind of chill background music.
So anytime there's no music, when you're rotating the camera, you don't know if the game has just crashed on you or not. And it's not just from cameras. It's anytime you have to look at a menu or pull up your budget or your infographics or whatever. Not all the infographics are there, though, because the Super Nintendo can't handle them.
Lovely.
Also, water's gone. They just removed that system.
There's just no water anywhere?
No, they just took the sewage out of the game.
Oh, well, that's nice. You know, I'm not upset about that.
Yeah, that part I'm okay with.
Not bothered by that.
It is clearly constrained by hardware limitations.
Yeah.
But I also feel like it's constrained by just poor programming.
Yeah, I mean, the original, granted, the original SimCity would have absolutely run on the Super Nintendo.
Yeah, it runs great.
Power-wise, but they really did rework the game to make it feel like a console game.
Yeah.
And to really customize it to the Super Nintendo. A lot of effort went into that.
Yeah, SimCity 2000 got no effort as far as consoleizing it. It is literally a port of the PC game, but much worse. And then you get to the PlayStation and Saturn versions. The PlayStation version was handled by Maxis, but published by ArtDink in Japan. Maxis published it themselves everywhere else. And it's competent. It's not, I wouldn't say it's as good as the PC version, but it handles well enough.
Yeah.
And the biggest issue was that it just eats up a big chunk of your memory card, right? Which, that's going to happen.
True.
The Saturn port, on the other hand, eats up your Saturn's entire RAM.
Oh, no.
You cannot have a second save file on your Saturn if you have SimCity 2000 on there.
Thanks.
And it doesn't recognize memory cards either. So you have to use your entire internal RAM, and it just kind of runs like butt. And I can't find out who programmed it because there is no information regarding who programmed it on the internet.
Oh.
So I don't know if
they don't want to be associated with that shit show.
I don't know if this was done by Maxis or some other company. Sega published it themselves in Japan. So I don't know if Sega handled this port. If they did, they failed. It also has awkward loading like the Super Nintendo version. So I don't know if there's like some shared DNA there. But I would not recommend it on the Saturn.
Yeesh. Let's go through some rapid fire takes here. Just kind of a smattering, a smorgasbord of shitty video games that we will briefly complain about.
Yes.
Starting with Silent Hill HD Collection on PS3 and 360. How good is it, Saturn?
It's not good.
This is the Comic Sans one, right?
Yeah, this is the one with the Comic Sans. Also, my favorite part is at one point you see a dramatic scene where Maria is very upset and hurt, and they replace the texture of her eyeball with the texture of the inside of her mouth. So
Why?
So her eyeball just looks like a mouth with teeth in it. And it's really weird.
No.
It's an awkward port. The voice acting is worse. Don't, like, if it's the only way you can play Silent Hill 2 and 3, all right, I guess. But don't do that. Pirate it.
Dark Souls PC port is on here. I didn't follow this one because I didn't get it on PC. I have the remastered version on PC, which seems to work good. But if memory serves, the PC port of Dark Souls just had a lot of technical issues, like many Japanese PC ports, frame rate issues, performance issues.
I remember
just
hearing
general
controller issues as well.
There were just a lot of issues with that one when it came out.
Fortunately, you don't need fine controls in Dark Souls, so it's all right.
No, it's great. You just play it with some DK bongos or something.
Yeah.
You'll be good.
Just use the numpad entirely.
Contra 3, The Alien Wars on GBA. There were a lot of Super Nintendo games ported to the GBA.
Yeah, and most of them were fine.
Most of them were fine.
Honestly, Street Fighter Alpha 3 on GBA is great. And that the Super Nintendo wouldn't have been able to handle that at all. But,
absolutely not.
But what wasn't great was Contra 3, because it ran like shit, and it somehow was missing levels and weapons that were on the black and white Game Boy version.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Just fascinating.
Right?
A lot of Doom ports, 3DO, Super Nintendo, Sega Saturn, are bad. I think I heard the GBA port was bad.
I don't remember.
I might be misremembering.
I always hear the 3DO port was the worst port.
That one, I've seen that one in action. It is pretty bad. There are a lot of really bad Doom ports out there, partially just because Doom is on everything. So some of them, like I don't think that Bacteria that plays Doom plays it very well.
Yeah.
That the news was reporting about the other day.
Sarah.
The
Bacteria.
Yeah. My
gut bacteria.
My TomTom, that was a bad port of Doom on Tom.
Yeah, that was a solid one. You didn't want to use the touchscreen for it?
No. Defender on Atari 2600.
I don't know if you played this or not, but it's a side-scrolling shmup, but it has the same flicker as Atari Pac-Man.
Oh, gross.
Yeah.
Various Konami DOS ports, a lot of them have some of the same kind of issues as the Capcom ports of just poor performance and being generally shitty.
And Ninja Turtles on DOS famously can't even be completed because they didn't finish coding one of the levels.
Mortal Kombat on Game Boy. Now, shockingly, there's a strong history of decent Street Fighter Game Boy ports.
Yeah, not great, but
not great.
Playable.
And especially like Game Boy Color kind of got like some special versions.
Surprisingly competent version of Street Fighter Alpha
that felt very like Neo Geo Pocket Color-esque sort of redesign. Right. Mortal Kombat wasn't so lucky.
No, it's really bad. And for some reason, they tried to port Mortal Kombat 4, the first polygonal 3D Mortal Kombat game, to original DMG Game Boy.
Yeah.
It's hilarious,
not gonna
but
work,
not
guys.
Playable.
Ninja Gaiden on PC Engine. This is the one where the background scrolling is so bad that it'll make you a blind.
Yeah.
I think it's an actual health hazard.
Yeah, if you are prone to epileptic seizures, do not play Ninja Gaiden on the PC Engine.
Anywhere near it.
Also, Golden Axe for PC Engine has the exact same problems.
Really?
Yes.
I did not know that one.
Yeah, it's rough.
Interesting. We could go on for basically ever because bad ports haven't stopped. I feel like we talk about bad Switch ports all the time, and we're talking about it today.
Yeah, it strikes me because people complain about bad ports today. They complain about this game came out on Switch and it barely handles 25 frames a second. I don't think they played Narc on NES.
I did. I had never played Arcade Narc, so I just thought it was just kind of not a very good game.
Yeah. Well, first of all, it's not. But I feel like the bad ports of the past were so bad that now I'm okay with the bad ports of today. Like, it is. I can stomach them even if they're not great.
I think a lot of it is if a high-profile game came out in the same state that some of these games came out in back in the day, there would be like a class action lawsuit.
Right?
Like, there would be legitimate, like, they would be in court like, I'm sorry, we need to talk to you about this DOS port of Mega Man 3 that you're charging people fucking money for. Yeah. Excuse you?
Right.
And so I think there would be legal recourse for those affected.
I was led to believe this was supposed to be Pac-Man.
Right. Like, at what point are you not engaging in blatant false advertising to say that that was Mega Man 3?
Yeah. At the time, they had the excuse of, well, the hardware couldn't really handle it.
Yes.
But now we no longer have that excuse.
No, it doesn't stop them a lot of the time. I mean, holy shit. But, what are you going to do? It's nice to be kind of out of the era of truly not functional games releasing.
Right.
And even now when they do, they're usually pretty quickly patched to at least function.
Yeah.
That isn't to say that we should all just grin and bear all of the bullshit that the games industry wants
months of Cyberpunk
shovel out there.
Yeah.
But in this particular regard, we have gotten better.
Yes.
A lot of it is just that tools have gotten better. Things are more portable. Yep. If you made your game in Unity, then you're going to easily be able to port it to whatever other platform you're going to go to, assuming you have the resources on that hardware.
It may run like shit on that other hardware, but it will run. It will function.
And so just portability, accessibility of tools has opened up so much that...
And all the platforms are so homogenous now. I mean...
Yeah, I mean, everything's just an x86 computer. Yeah,
exactly.
They're just, just shit.
Right.
And so that is one nicety about modern game design is the tools have gotten so much better.
Yes.
Development has gotten so much better. You wouldn't know it to look at some of the AAA games coming out these days, but it has.
Yeah.
And that means that porting things is Not one guy given 4 months and then told to make it intentionally bad and then release it. Kind of shit going on.
Also, we rarely ever see a game come out these days where they're like, oh, well, it was 10 buttons on PlayStation, but you only get 1 button on Switch.
Right, here you go. Enjoy it with no ability to actually play it in any meaningful way.
We took away your ability to block and replaced it with the ability to sprint forward.
Yeah. Well, you know what we won't take away, Saturn? Is your ability to access patreon.com/retrowarriors, where you can get uncut versions of the show. You can get talking wizards. You can please write into our mailbag, please.
Yeah.
Please write in.
You have like a day left, assuming you're listening to this on day 1.
Please, we need a break, please. Just write us a quick. Ask me anything. Ask me who my favorite Ninja Turtle is. I'll tell you, please. Just write in to the show. Please.
It's Yertle. Yertle is his favorite Ninja Turtle.
Jesus Christ. That's the stupidest joke. It's only funny because last night I bought the rules to run a tabletop RPG Ninja Turtle thing. And I was like, what fun characters could I add to the Ninja Turtles universe to be silly and fun? And I'm absolutely going to roll up Yertle the Turtle in the TMNT universe now.
Nice. You have to let me know what color of eye mask he wears.
Yeah, well, we got to think what's left. Okay, we got
cyan. No, because Leonardo's pretty
Leonardo's
close to
blue.
cyan
We've got orange, yellow, purple, blue, red is all currently in use.
Is there a puke green?
No. Right, let's make it puke green for Yertle the This is a preview for my personal D&D group. In a couple weeks, you're going to fight Yertle the Turtle in a puke green face mask.
Perfect.
We were doing Patreon.
Oh, yeah.
We want to thank the following patrons for their kind donations, starting with Free Code Camp Quincy Larson,
and Elson Raves,
David Nethery,
Todd Bass,
Adam Williams,
Chris Courage,
Captain Koloff,
Mark Bowler,
Casey McGinty,
and Extreme Ass Taco.
Are all the people we want to thank for the money that they give us. Thank you very much for the money. It's nice, and we enjoy it a lot. The only thing I like more than money is for you to ask us questions on our mailbag episode. That's it. That's the only thing I like more than that.
And Yertle the Ninja Turtle.
And Yertle the Ninja Turtle. He has to have some kind of power where he stands on top of the opponent. That has to be what his special ability is.
He forces his opponents to stack.
What's his power? Forced stacking. I'm sorry, what? Please stay tuned after the ending theme. Our producer guy is going to be on the show for the after party.
Yes.
So please listen to that. We need to end this before it gets even more weird. So,
indeed.
Anyway, thank you for listening. We'll be back next week. And as always, let us cling together. After party with our producer Guy. Hi, Guy. Is he there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hey, Guy, who's your favorite Ninja Turtle?
Yeah, is it Yertle?
It's Donatello. What kind of dumb question is that?
It was Yertle.
Oh, also Black is also in use. Slash wears a black mask.
Oh yeah, that's a fair point.
And I think Venus de Milo wears a white mask. Or she might not wear a mask at all.
I was not aware that there were additional Ninja Turtles.
Yes, they've added new. So, okay. All right. Well, we're in the after party, and I'm going to take it over and talk about Ninja Turtles.
Wow, hold on. No, this is my after party, sir.
So how you been, Guy?
I've been good. Also, back to Ninja Turtles real quick, though.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Fuck you. You're not going to take it over and talk about Ninja Turtles anyway. I want to talk about Ninja Turtles.
My wife had a crush on Donatello, and she married a Donatello. So.
Oh, that's good. Oh, yeah, because you're all about purple stuff. That's your whole bag.
And fucking hardware.
Yeah, I forget about your love of purple things.
It's great.
I've never loved a color enough for it to be a tangible part of my identity. You know what I mean?
I'm sorry that you haven't had that love in your life. I don't know what to tell you.
Like, I mean, I like colors. There's colors I like, but it's never been like a thing where I'm like, no, that's my color. You know what I mean? It's never been like a thing of mine.
I mean, it's probably some sort of like fucking ADHD coping mechanism, I'm sure, right? Like,
I have no idea. Oh my God, Saturn, you found pictures of Yertle the Ninja Turtle.
I did.
On the internet already.
Yep.
Oh,
yep.
No.
This
is it just David Spade in a Ninja Turtle movie?
God damn it.
Why David Spade?
Well, because he was in that turtle movie.
What
turtle
What are you
movie?
talking about?
Oh, no, that was the other guy, fucking Garth.
Yeah, Garth Algar. What's his name?
Dana Carvey.
Dana Carvey.
Dana Carvey.
Yeah. He was Master of Disguises.
Oh, yeah.
Dressed like a turtle, and he's like,
All right.
turtle. Man,
Yeah.
what the fuck happened?
I blocked that movie out of my
With that
mind.
goddamn. Sometimes I feel bad for people like Dana Carvey because like he's clearly very talented.
Yeah.
But when he's left to his own devices, I don't like anything he does. He seems to need some kind of specific direction.
Did you guys watch the Dana Carvey show?
No,
No.
it was before my time.
It was a kind of a variety sketch comedy show that aired in prime time on ABC for 8 episodes.
Oh,
And every episode was sponsored by a different company, and they included the sponsored name in the title as a joke. So, like, the first episode was the Taco Bell Dana Carvey Show, and the second episode was the Mug Root Beer Dana Carvey Show, and it was pretty good. It was pretty solid.
yeah.
That sounds pretty solid.
the Szechuan Dynasty Dana Carvey Show.
Yeah. No, I never saw that show. It was like early 90s, right?
It was 95.
Okay, I was 7. So yeah, I don't think I was watching Dana Carvey variety
Right. Yeah.
sketch comedy shows when I was 7.
Well, you should have been.
I was not. In 1995, my entire fucking life was Power Rangers.
Apparently, the head writer on the Dana Carvey Show was Louis C.K.
Oh, I think
That's
I knew
weird.
that because I've seen like all of Louis C.K.'s stuff, and I remember. I feel like I remember hearing that at some juncture. You know, yeah, very strange.
I like how like carefully you tried to not say I like this stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I've not
It's
watched
become
any of his things since his like because
controversy.
he's like had a comeback. Like he's had 2
Right.
specials since his scandal.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah,
don't
no,
want
it's
to be like
understandable.
I don't want to be like I'm a huge Louis C.K. fan because like I haven't watched any of his stuff since all the shit went down.
Right.
Right.
But also
yeah.
like I definitely watched everything he made before that.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of a weird moment, you know.
It's good. That's what I'm here for, to call those out. It's been too long.
Yeah. Anyway, what's going on, Guy? Hello.
Everything.
Hi.
It's been months. What do you mean what's going on?
Right.
You know what? Seen
So
good movies lately, or
for those who like don't know, this happens every year, right? It seems this year is more extreme than previous years, right?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's just like because we switched from Friday to Thursday or something. I don't know.
Right.
But during hockey playoffs, if there's a hockey game that the Stars are playing in, I'm not doing anything else. Period. Like I've got tickets to the games, so like home games, like I've paid the money for, so I'm definitely going. But even away games, like no, I'm gonna watch that. And you know, people in my life are nice and understand that, and I love them for it. Thank you. But now that's over and I'm back. So yeah, so I missed like 2 months of recording. I think my last episode was Final Fantasy Spirits Within.
oh wow, yeah, it's been a minute.
What year was that?
Right. And like, I don't know. And I was telling Saturn before the show, like it happened like 2 weeks or like a 3-week span. Like hockey games were like every other day or whatever.
Yeah.
So it just happened to fall on the wrong schedule where like I had a hockey game on Wednesday, so I missed D&D night. But I was free on Thursday, but that was a non-recording Thursday.
Right.
And then
yeah,
so the
we had
next
to move
week,
it to Tuesday for a while.
yeah, and then like the next week, it shifted, right? Because that's how, you know, days work. There's an odd number of them.
Yeah.
And so I missed the recording, but I was free and I got to do D&D. So I was like, hey, Justin, see you tonight, not tomorrow.
Yeah,
And then like the next week I missed D&D again because it shifted. It Anyway, it sucked.
Then you got sick.
I want you to know that I fucking hate hockey. Exclusively because during hockey season, I do not get to see you at all. It's
not just
like
the playoffs.
He's not going to be at the recording sessions. He's not going to be at D&D, and he's also not going to know when he's not going to be there. He's going to be like, I might be there, I might not. I don't know. Goodbye for like 2 fucking months. I hate it. I hate hockey.
I know. I'm so sorry. But yeah, so that's where I've been. In that time span, I've got notes. In that time span.
Oh my God. Are you about to hammer us with like 2 months worth of shit?
Oh, no. I don't have notes about the show. I haven't listened to the show, though. No.
That's good.
All right.
No,
okay.
This thing I pay to produce, no, I don't listen
Yeah,
to
you
it. It's
don't.
fine.
It's good. It's for the best. You don't want to
I trust you guys to float the show for a couple months, you know.
I'm so glad you haven't been listening to the disaster that the show has been for the last 2 months.
Uh-oh.
During hockey season, we go wild.
Yeah.
It's just Yertle the Turtle jokes every episode.
It's weird, man. My kids turned 11 and 13. So they had birthdays. That was cool. I feel real bad too because and they'll listen to this episode one of these years. They're starting to ask about Retro Warriors, you know?
Oh, yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I'm like, no, not yet. So if they ever go back and listen to this, I'm sorry. I feel bad. For Max, I got him a Dalek that he asked for. It's like a little vinyl toy, you know?
Okay. A Dalek, like from Doctor Who.
From Doctor Who, yes.
Okay. I thought you were saying doll and then just saying it weird.
No. A Dalek from Doctor Who.
It sounded like you were mixing doll with calic.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
All right. So you got him a Dalek.
Yeah.
And it was like $30. And he wanted it, so yeah, he was happy.
Nice.
And then my eldest child turned 13. And I told her I'd build a computer with her.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got her a computer. I didn't build it. Like I got a refurbished one off of Amazon.
Nice.
Because it's like $200. And it, decent specs, stuff to run like what she wanted to do. And she wanted to get like Unity and like learn how to, use Unity, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know. And then I had to buy like a desk and then all the accessories that go with the computer and speakers.
Right. All the shit. The speakers, the monitor, the fucking cables. And
right.
The 3 printer cables that go in a drawer that you never actually use, but you won't ever throw them out. All the standard accoutrement.
That stuff.
So I spent like a ridiculous amount of money on her birthday and like $30 on the other one. I'm like, oh no, I'm sorry, child.
Yeah.
It
happens
I promise
years,
that's not an every year thing.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that was fun. It's cool. Like my eldest being a teenager is neat, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you're entering the teenage phase.
Right. And then, but and I know that comes with all sort of stereotypical crap and like whatever. I'm sure we'll deal with it. But
right.
Hopefully, I think the goal there is we've laid a foundation that she can talk to us as parents and adults.
That's good.
Right.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Fingers crossed. But also like now she's old enough to have her own computer and like really dig into like things that she wants to learn and like grow into as a teenager and adult and shit.
Nice.
Yeah.
So that's it's a neat milestone.
It's gonna be both exciting and terrifying, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I went to an electronic music festival.
Oh yeah, I remember. In the middle of you abandoning me for 2 months, we were like, you were like, yeah, I don't know, I can't do this thing you want to do because you still want to hang out with me for whatever. I don't remember what it was. And then you're like, because I'm going to name of thing in Vegas. And I was like, oh. And you're like, tomorrow. I was like, oh. Have fun, I guess. I don't know what the fuck that is or that you were going to it, but enjoy your thing, I guess.
Yeah, I went to EDC, which is like
Everyday Carry, the festival.
Yeah. It's the Electric Daisy Carnival.
Okay.
They put on several shows around the world. Vegas is one of their biggest, and it's like in the infield of Las Vegas Motor Speedway.
Okay.
Which is, I don't know how long the track is, but it's a giant like oval track.
I was about to say it's pretty big. It's a big one.
Yeah, and like I think there were a couple 100,000 people there. They said.
Oh my god!
Crammed in there.
Ugh.
You should look at pictures. It was nutso. Yeah. I enjoyed it. I had a great time. The music was fantastic. I loved the people that I went with. We went for my wife's best friend's 40th birthday.
Right. So you took a bunch of peyote and freaked out in the desert for half the night, and it's just kind of it.
No, but they do have different laws than we do. So,
yeah, I'm aware of this.
I was able to take advantage of some of that, I would say.
The prostitution and gambling is my first indicator that they have slightly different laws than we do here in Texas.
Right. So it's a good time. But what was I saying? Oh yeah. So, but it was kind of terrifying being like jammed into a couple 100,000 people for 3 days on end, and it was 3 nights too. Like it started.
Oh my God!
Our bus left at 6.
How
PM.
fucking partied out were you by the end of that? Like you had to just been wiped.
I still have blisters on my feet that have not popped. I don't.
Oh, gross.
It's been like a month. They're on like the ends of my toes.
That's awful.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. They're numb for me. They don't hurt. It's just it's weird when I walk. I don't know. So yeah, but it was really fun. We walked so many miles, like from one end to the other, because I think they had like 8 different stages set up.
Yeah.
So it was really cool. They had like this giant ass fireworks show, and I get to see a bunch of like I don't know, artists that I have always listened to their music. Had no, like, if it was up to me, I wouldn't go see them per se.
Yeah.
More like a rock show kind of guy, but like, I'm glad as a bucket list sort of thing, I got to see them, so that was nice.
I like that you, for a couple months, you're like, yeah, I've been out like watching the NHL playoffs and going to music festivals, and me and Saturn are here like, well, we would talk about Dig Dug or whatever.
Yeah.
For like 2 months.
That's my life.
And Mega Bad DOS.
Sometimes I go to work.
So our lives are pretty exciting too. So
well, yeah, just disappear for a couple months and do all the things. I don't know.
Yeah,
it happens. The thing that I couldn't, I got 2 more things. The thing that I couldn't do for EDC that you want to do was go to Game Store and play Flesh and Blood.
Oh yeah. Because we the new. This is how exciting my life is. The new Flesh and Blood set came out, and I was like, hey, we were going to some weekly events to kind of work up to the big pre-release. They have a big pre-release event, so like everyone goes and opens all the new cards at once, and you get to build new decks with them and do all that. And yeah, you had to bail on one of those weeks, but you did go to pre-release with us, so
I did.
That was a thing.
So like that's what I wrote down. I wrote down Fab. That's a thing I did in these 2 months. I finally committed to learning it, and I bought a deck.
Yeah, that's about to get rotated out because of tournament performance.
Right. So there's 2 heroes with the same name. One of them is performing poorly, and one of them is performing amazingly, and I bought the wrong one.
Yeah, that's okay. You can still play it in the non-rotating format.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I could do that. But also maybe I'll just build a deck with one of the new heroes, or find another one that I like.
Maybe.
So I'm excited about that. So, I didn't disappear 100%. I did go
I like
to
feel like the last time you were here was when we were yelling at you about how bad Final Fantasy Spirits Within is. Mm-hmm. And then you left for 2 months and went and lived a whole fucking like Benjamin Button life out there. And then came back refreshed.
No, it's what's that fucking song by Lonely Island?
I don't. Which one?
The one where they have like that crazy ass night, like gets his hand chopped off.
Oh yeah.
Shit. It's like that.
The one where he fucked a giant fish.
Yeah.
Is that the one? Yeah.
Found a giant fish, fucked his brains out. Yeah.
Yeah. God, what is the name of that song? I don't know. It's been a minute.
Santa Gold's in it. I know that.
It's been a couple of minutes. Well, that's good, man. I'm glad you got to go out and have a nice spring and enjoy yourself.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to doing absolutely nothing for like the next 8 months. Like
I assume the Stars won the Super Bowl or whatever the thing is. I don't know.
They got to the league semifinals.
Okay, so really they just kind of did shitty, I guess. Then.
Oh no, they did amazing. Fuck off. We're not Cowboys fans. We're
there's semifinals is before the real finals, right?
Sure. Yeah, there were 4 teams left in the league.
All right. So they got like top 4.
Top 4 out of 32. That's pretty good.
So how much prize money they get for that?
8.
Well, the players get bonuses for each round they get into, so
that's
a lot.
That's good for them. They can afford all that dental work they probably need.
Oh man! Oh, dude. Speaking of that, sorry. Now you got me on side story. In one of the games, there was a player who the previous game had gotten injured and had to like leave the game for the last like 20 minutes of it.
Yeah.
Well, he came back on the next game, and he's like an important player. We're like, oh, we need this guy to win or whatever. Mm-hmm. And like during like his first shift on the ice, he got hit and then went back into the locker room for like, to be seen by the doctor.
Yeah.
And he ended up coming back a third of the way through the game after the first period. Mm-hmm. But they reported later that what happened was that he got hit so hard that a tooth got shoved into his jaw, and so they pulled it out, and then he went back and finished the game.
Jesus Christ. Gross.
It turns out that's not what actually happened. That's just what got reported. What actually happened was that his lip got shoved over his tooth, and they had to like pull his lip off of his tooth and then suture it shut. And then he went back and finished the game.
I guess this is grotesque and horrible.
Hockey players are a different kind of person. I don't know. It's insane to me.
That's brutal, man.
All right, and then last note, Aiden Chronicle was okay. I enjoyed it while I was playing, but I didn't finish it.
Oh yeah, you weren't on that episode.
Yeah, I spent 66 hours playing the dumbass game and didn't get to talk about it at all.
That's okay. Andrew spent the same amount of time, and then we were like, yeah, we're cutting you down to one episode.
Oh, no.
Like last minute. I was like, yeah, you've been cut. We're cutting your content.
We just didn't have enough to spread across 2 episodes.
Yeah,
unless we complained more.
I told him, I was like, hey, you realize that me and Saturn haven't played the whole story, so the second episode is just going to be you telling us the story. And he was like, yeah, I don't want to fucking do that. I was like, yeah, I don't blame you for that.
Thanks, hockey.
So it is what it is. Fucking hockey.
All you Retro Warriors listeners would have got 2 episodes if the Stars weren't in the playoffs.
Fucking hate hockey. It ruins my D&D for like 2 months.
And who's not going to be here now? It's not me.
And everyone's... Oh, no, I'm going to be here this week. Yeah, I moved my family vacation around to make it to D&D.
Nice. So, well, I appreciate you doing that.
I'll be there. Don't you worry. I'll be there. Everyone's always so nice. They're like, guy's not going to be here again this week. Should we still give him experience for his character even though he wasn't here? And I'm over there like, no, fuck him. Don't give him shit.
I expected not to get experience. I was pleasantly surprised the couple of times I did.
Yeah, you show up and they're like, here's a bag of gold and some experience points.
Yippee.
Yeah, they were all very nice about it. And I was like, no, I wouldn't be that nice. They'd be like, you weren't here. You don't get it. This is my gold. But,
no, that's fair. As long as you keep it, straight in the ledger.
Well, what else you got for us other than all of that stuff? All of those large life events, rapid fire all at once.
Yeah, I started playing Elden Ring again. I'm determined to beat that dumbass game.
Good luck. I recommend cheating. They're expansive cheat tables for the game, and they work great, and they make it so much more fun.
Well, I got it on the Xbox.
Oh, well, you could get it on a real platform and then cheat. Makes it way more fun.
Oh, speaking of real, I got real internet.
Oh, yeah, you did get real internet. You're no longer on the T-Mobes.
No.
You got actual Ma Bell showed up and hooked up internet. Do you have are you on like fiber or is it just like regular?
Oh. It's a regular copper line, so it's like 50 meg down max.
Oh, yeah, that's good. That's a little bit more than me. Not by a lot, but a little bit.
Hey, you know what? It's enough that we can all watch different things and download stuff at the same time.
Oh, you get to live in the future. One day I'll get to live in the future. One day we'll all get to live in the future that Saturn inhabits with gigabit fiber.
Dude, it was at the point that I would when I wanted to download Destiny update for the new patch.
You're like, I guess I'll go to bed now and it'll be done in a day or two.
No, I went to bed and then we were watching our shows or whatever, and then my wife fell asleep, and so then I got up and went all the way to the media room, which is like a 5-mile walk, and then turned on my Xbox and started the download so that it would finish overnight. Yeah.
I'd just like to say that I know that it's not this way, but just the phrasing of it made it sound like you're so much older than you are. You're like, me and the missus were watching the shows.
So the wheel was about to come on, and I need to get my downloads going on my computer before that because I didn't want to miss it.
I don't like that new Ryan Seacrest guy. Where's Pat?
I'm sorry, Ryan Seacrest is hosting Wheel of Fortune?
Yeah, Pat Sajak's retiring.
Oh, my God.
Thank
Ryan
God.
Seacrest?
I'm not a Pat Sajak fan. I've never been a Pat Sajak fan.
Yeah.
As a big game show fan, Pat Sajak has always been my least favorite of the game show hosts. So I am willing to give Ryan Seacrest a shot because he's not Pat Sajak.
All right, then.
Well, there you go.
I think on that note, we're going to go. Guy, thanks for being here and producing the show and all this stuff.
Yeah, thanks for talking to me for like 20 minutes.
Yeah,
thanks for playing 65 hours of Eiyuden Chronicle to then not be on the episode. Anyway, thank you for listening to the After Party. We'll be back next week. Goodbye.
Bye.